Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Sunday, January 20th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college basketball, NBA, and NHL games, look ahead to today's games in each of those sports. Go over last night's starting of round 4 of the Australian Open. NFL look ahead, and my best bet of the day. Alright, here we go. College basketball. I'm just going to go through scores, no records, because I'm totally behind today. Wisconsin upsets number 2 Michigan 64-54. Number 13 North Carolina defeats Miami 85-76. Northeastern defeats UNC Wilmington 88-71. UCF defeats Tulsa 64-62. Bucknell defeats Lehigh 85-83. Florida defeats Georgia 62-52. Loyola Maryland defeats Holy Cross 67-65 in overtime. Davidson defeats Richmond 75-62. Number 18 Ole Miss defeats Arkansas 84-67. VMI defeats Western Carolina 91-83. Stony Brook defeats Maine 64-61. Vermont defeats Binghamton 78-50. UMBC defeats Albany 65-64 in overtime. Wright State defeats Cleveland State 89-66. Canisius defeats Fairfield 73-68. Northern Kentucky defeats Youngstown State 82-74. Green Bay defeats UIC 90-85. Colgate defeats Boston College 77-56. Cornell defeats Columbia 60-59. Number 3 Tennessee defeats Alabama 71-68. West Virginia upsets number 7 Kansas 65-64. Number 17 NC State defeats Notre Dame 77-73. Purdue defeats number 25 Indiana 70-55. Oakland defeats Detroit Mercy 79-73. Syracuse defeats Pitt 74-63. UConn defeats Tulane 87-71. Niagara defeats Quinnipiac 75-72. Loyola Chicago defeats Indiana State 75-67. UMass Lowell defeats Hartford 76-73. Lafayette defeats American 84-79 in overtime. Illinois defeats Evansville 78-70. Drexel defeats James Madison 73-68. Coastal Carolina defeats Appalachian State 83-72. Cincinnati defeats Wichita State 66-55. Bowling Green defeats Western Michigan 79-48. Kent State defeats Northern Illinois 78-68. Rhode Island defeats LaSalle 78-67. Southeast Louisiana defeats McNeese 74-71. Army defeats Navy 72-61. Western Kentucky defeats FAU 72-66. Yale Monroe defeats Louisiana 99-95. North Dakota State defeats North Dakota 67-65. Stanford defeats Washington State 78-66. Southern Utah defeats Sacramento State 71-66. UT Arlington defeats Little Rock 82-73. Troy defeats Georgia State 77-75. Mercer defeats Stanford 93-87. St. Francis, Pennsylvania defeats Central Connecticut State 80-69. Missouri defeats Texas A&M 66-43. Miami of Ohio defeats Akron 68-61. Yale defeats Brown 70-67. Number 9 Virginia Tech defeats Wake Forest 87-71. Number 12 Kentucky defeats number 14 Auburn 82-80. Robert Morris defeats Bryant 79-65. Northern Arizona defeats Portland State 82-75. Presbyterian defeats Longwood 71-64. Old Dominion defeats Southern Miss 78-60. Georgia Southern defeats South Alabama 88-86 in overtime. Bethune-Cookman defeats Delaware State 69-49. Charlotte defeats Louisiana Tech 55-40. NJIT defeats Jacksonville 77-74. St. Francis Brooklyn defeats Sacred Heart 92-85. Howard defeats SC State 71-67 in overtime. Elan defeats William & Mary 76-71. USC defeats UCLA 80-67. Coppin State defeats NC Central 64-60. Maryland Eastern defeats Florida A&M 60-58 in overtime. Kansas State defeats TCU 65-55. Hofstra defeats Charleston 86-72. Mount St. Mary's defeats Wagner 70-56. Louisville defeats Georgia Tech 79-51. Loyola Marymount defeats Pepperdine 74-70. Valparaiso defeats Northern Iowa 75-66. UNC Greensboro defeats East Tennessee State 75-68. NCAT defeats Morgan State 57-53. Memphis defeats SMU 83-61. Eastern Illinois defeats Austin Peay 85-83. Radford defeats UNC Asheville 71-63. Butler defeats St. John's 80-71. Ball State defeats Central Michigan 83-72. LU Brooklyn defeats Fairleigh Dickinson 79-77. Florida Gulf Coast defeats Kennesaw State 72-59. Dayton defeats St. Bonaventure 89-86 in double overtime. Stephen F. Austin defeats Incarnate Word 74-71. North Alabama defeats Stetson 63-62. Winthrop defeats SC Upstate 82-72. Chattanooga defeats the Citadel 73-71. Central Arkansas defeats Nichols 74-68. Washington defeats Cal 71-52. Penn upsets Temple 77-70. Eastern Washington defeats Montana State 85-81. Texas State defeats Arkansas State 77-64. Fresno State defeats Boise State 63-53. Campbell defeats Charleston Southern 73-72. Number 1 Duke defeats number 4 Virginia 72-70. Baylor upsets number 8 Texas Tech 73-62. Norfolk State defeats Savannah State 82-76. Iowa State defeats Oklahoma State 72-59. LSU defeats South Carolina 89-67. Belmont defeats Tennessee State 92-74. UC Irvine defeats Cal State Northridge 74-68. New Mexico defeats Wyoming 83-53. Prairie View A&M defeats Jackson State 55-51. North Texas defeats Rice 76-75. Alabama State defeats Alabama A&M 72-54. A&M Corpus Christi defeats New Orleans 76-61. Alcorn State defeats Mississippi Valley State 63-57. VCU defeats UMass 68-50. Southern defeats Arkansas Pine Bluff 69-67 in overtime. Morehead State defeats UT Martin 85-77. Abilene Christian defeats Northwestern State 78-69. Gardner-Webb defeats Hampton 87-74 in overtime. Marshall defeats FIA 105-97. Arizona defeats Oregon State 82-71. Liberty defeats North Florida 70-64. Rider defeats Manhattan 60-47. Eastern Kentucky defeats Southeast Missouri State 85-83. Wofford defeats Furman 59-54. Milwaukee defeats IUPUI 67-57. George Mason defeats Fordham 71-68. Towson defeats Delaware 64-63. UNLV defeats San Jose State 94-56. Texas defeats number 20 Oklahoma 75-72. Number 21 Houston defeats South Florida 69-60. Sam Houston State defeats Houston Baptist 65. Murray State defeats SAU Edwardsville 82-72. UC Riverside defeats Hawaii 75-71. UAB defeats UTSA 83-73. DePaul upsets Seton Hall 97-93. Jacksonville State defeats Tennessee Tech 65-48. UC Davis defeats Cal Poly 75-63. Western Illinois defeats Purdue Fort Wayne 87-58. Number 24 Mississippi State defeats Vanderbilt 71-55. Minnesota defeats Penn State 65-64. Grambling defeats Texas Southern 88-87 in overtime. Utah State defeats Colorado State 87-72. New Mexico State defeats Utah Valley 83-78. Grand Canyon defeats UMKC 78-50. St. Mary's defeats San Diego 76-59. Weber State defeats Northern Colorado 78-64. Arizona State defeats Oregon 78-64. Number 5 Gonzaga defeats Portland 89-66. Number 10 Nevada defeats Air Force 67-52. Texas Rio Grande defeats Seattle 67-62. CSU's Fullerton defeats Long Beach State 90-90 in overtime. Santa Clara defeats Pacific 69-57. Cal State Bakersfield defeats Chicago State 86-73. Montana defeats Idaho 69-51. And San Francisco defeats BYU 82-63. Today's slate beginning in just a few moments at 12 o'clock. Number 11 Florida State at Boston College on ESPNU. FSU is a 7-point favorite. That is an early tip. I think FSU wins, but Boston College covers. Number 15 Marquette hosts Providence on CBS Sports Network in just a few moments. Marquette's a 7.5-point favorite. I think they win and cover. Iona at Monmouth, 1 o'clock. Illinois at number 23, Iowa. Iowa's -9. They're way better than Illinois. I think they win and cover. 4 o'clock ESPNU, Bradley at Southern Illinois. SIU is -7. I think Bradley covers, but SIU wins. Missouri State at Drake. Drake's 3.5-point favorites. They should cover that easily. I think Vegas hasn't adjusted to the fact that Drake's a pretty good team in the Mountain Valley this year. Duquesne and George Washington. Duquesne's -3. This is tough. Duquesne is 12-5. George Washington's been a bit of an underachiever. Why not? Let's go with the home upset with George Washington. Oral Roberts at Denver's at 6 o'clock, as well as Colorado and Utah on ESPNU. Utah's -4. I think Utah wins and covers. And last but not least, South Dakota at Omaha at 7 o'clock. So a small slate today. NBA. Yesterday was a big slate. The Thunder defeat the 76ers 117-115. The Hornets defeat the Suns 135-115. The Kings defeat the Pistons 103-101. The Pacers defeat the Mavericks 111-99. The Bucks defeat the Magic 118-108. The Celtics defeat the Hawks 113-105. The Raptors defeat the Grizzlies 119-90. The Heat defeat the Bulls 117-103. The Rockets defeat the Lakers 138-134 in overtime. And the Nuggets defeat the Cavaliers 124-102. Small slate today, only 3 games. At 6 o'clock, you have the Hornets at the Pacers. 7 o'clock, the Suns at the Timberwolves, and the Clippers at the Spurs. NHL. Big slate yesterday. The Ducks defeat the Devils 3-2. The Avalanche defeat the Kings 7-1. The Flyers defeat the Canadiens 5-2. The Rangers defeat the Bruins 3-2. The Lightning defeat the Sharks 6-3. The Blues defeat the Senators 3-2. The Stars defeat the Jets 4-2. The Panthers defeat the Predators 4-2. The Wild defeat the Blue Jackets 2-1. The Flames defeat the Oilers 5-2. The Vegas Golden Knights defeat the Penguins 7-3. 5-game slate tonight at 12:30 on NBC. The Capitals at the Blackhawks. Doc Emrick, Eddie Olczyk, Pierre McGuire on the call. Chicago's been playing a little bit better of late, but I still don't trust them. Washington needs this game. Ovechkin plays well on national TV, so give me the Capitals in the close one on the road. 3 o'clock, the Ducks at the Islanders. 4 o'clock, the Red Wings at the Canucks. 7 o'clock, the Coyotes at the Maple Leafs. And at 9:30, the Hurricanes at the Oilers. Let's go over to the women's side of the Australian Open. Some interesting results last night. A lot of upsets on both the men's and the women's sides of things. Petra Kvitova defeated Amanda Anisimova. 15-seeded Ashley Barty defeated 30-seeded Maria Sharapova. Danielle Rose Collins upset number 2-seeded Angelique Kerber. Danielle Rose Collins is on some magical run in this tournament. And then last but not least, how about this? Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova upsets your 5-seed Solane Stevens. That's incredible. And then tonight you have 17-seeded Madison Keys against your 6th seed Alina Svitolina. I like the run that Madison Keys has been on. I'm going to pick her to upset Svitolina to move on. And then at 8 o'clock, you have Naomi Osaka, your 4-seed, against 13-seeded Anastasia Sevastova. Give me Osaka there to move on. She's the better tennis player, although I think this match will be competitive. And in your overnight, you have 18-seeded Gabrine Muguruza against 7-seeded Karolina Pliskova. This is going to be a fun one. I'm going to take Pliskova here to advance. And what is the matchup of the overnight? 1-seeded Simona Halep against 16-seeded Serena Williams. Guess what? I'm taking Serena. She's the better tennis player, the more proven tennis player. I like Halep. She's very good. But give me Serena. She is ready for this moment. Men's side. Some interesting results on that end, too. Francis Tiafoe upset 20-seeded Grigor Dimitrov. 2-seeded Rafael Nadal defeated Thomas Berdych. That's no surprise. But in your overnights, how about this? 22-seeded Roberto Bautista Agut upset your 6-seed Marin Cilic. Good for Bautista Agut. He's had a great run here in the tournament. And how about this, too? 14-seeded Stefano Tsitsipas upset 3-seeded Roger Federer. Wow. And then tonight, you have a couple biggies. At 10 o'clock Eastern Time, you have 4-seeded Alexander Zverev against 16-seeded Milos Raonic. I think Raonic has a real chance, but I'm going to go with Zverev. He's the more proven tennis player, and I trust him more in this spot. Overnight at 1 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, you have 11-seeded Borna Soric against 28-seeded Lucas Paole. Give me Soric there. I trust him more in a big spot. And at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, you have 23-seeded Pablo Carreno Busta against 8-seeded Kei Nishioka. Nishioka should win, and I trust him more in this spot. And then at 5 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, you have 1-seeded Novak Djokovic against 15-seeded Daniil Medvedev. Give me Djokovic there, because I think it's hard to bet against Djokovic in a spot like this. Let's look ahead to today's NFL games for a little bit before I move on to my best bet. In the first game, you have the Rams and the Saints, 3 o'clock on Fox. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews on the call. You have Drew Brees and Jared Goff as your quarterbacks. Brees is the edge there. Your running games, you have the combo of Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram on one side. And on the other side, you have C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley. I give the edge to the Saints because that group is proven all year. Although the Rams can't be counted out, C.J. Anderson has been an excellent pickup for this team and was humongous in that Rams game last week. Wide receivers. The Saints is, outside of Michael Thomas, you have Keith Kirkwood, Ted Ginn Jr., and then the Rams you have Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and Josh Reynolds. So I give the Rams the edge there. Tight end, the Saints are missing theirs with Ben Watson. So the Rams have the better of the tight ends. They have Gerald Everett leading the way at tight end. And they also have Tyler Higbee, who's pretty good. So the Rams get the edge there. On the defensive side of the ball, the pass rush, I give the edge to the Saints, even though you have a strong argument for the Rams. But the interior, the Rams get the edge on the defensive line. But pass rush, I'd say Saints, led by Cameron Jordan. And in linebackers, I'd say it's a bit of a toss-up. You have on one side, you have Mark Barron and Samson Ebukam and Corey Littleton. And on the other side, you have Darnell Sankey, Manti Te'o, and Craig Robertson. So I'd give a little bit of an edge to New Orleans. Te'o's played in big games in his life before, although Mark Barron's a nice player. Secondaries, I'm giving the edge to Los Angeles, led by Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters, over the Saints with Marshawn Lattimore and Eli Apple. Safeties, the Rams have LaMarcus Joyner and Josh Johnson. And then with the Saints, their safeties are Von Bell and Chris Banjo. So on that part of this, let's do a secondary as a whole. We're giving the Rams an edge. Special teams, Will Lutz, and then on the other side you have Greg Zuerlein. I'd give the edge to the Rams. Zuerlein's a better kicker than Lutz. Lutz missed a 53-yarder that would have had the Saints cover in the Eagles game last week. Lutz isn't a bad kicker, but Zuerlein's been there before, and he's been around a long time. So the Rams have advantages a lot of places on their roster, but the Saints, just being in the Superdome, Drew Brees and Sean Payton, I trust more than Sean McVay and Jared Goff. And the Sheldon Rankins absence might prove costly for New Orleans if you're looking for any negatives for the Saints. And at 6:30 Eastern Time tonight, you have the Chiefs hosting the Patriots. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson on the call on CBS. We're going to go position by position and say advantages. Patrick Mahomes against Tom Brady. This year I'm giving the edge to Mahomes. He's your MVP favorite. He's been awesome all year. But if you want to go by big game experience, then you have to roll with Tom Brady. Running backs, you have Damian Williams on one side, and on the other side you have the combination of Sonny Michel and Rex Burkhead, James Delavan. You have more depth on the New England side, although Kansas City has some nice depth pieces at running back with Spencer Ware and Karchandrick West and the rookie Darrell Williams. Wide receiver, the edge is going to Kansas City. Oh, and by the way, the running back edge goes to New England because they have better depth than Kansas City. Kansas City wide receivers, you have Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson, Chris Conley. Meanwhile, on the other side, their guys really haven't had good years, meaning their receivers. You have Julian Edelman, Chris Hogan, Cordell Patterson, and Philip Dorsett. I'm giving the edge to New England. You have Rob Gronkowski against Travis Kelce. The edge is going to Kansas City. One unit I forgot to mention on the Rams and Saints game was offensive line. The advantage I'd give to New Orleans on that unit. Although the Rams O-line's good, the Saints has Andres Pete and Ryan Ramczyk on it to lead the way. And back to New England, Kansas City. You have Trent Brown, who's had a good season. Shaq Mason is a fine player. Meanwhile, for KC on the O-line, Eric Fisher finally has put it together. You have Mitchell Schwartz, who's a pretty good tackle. Cam Irving's okay. Tough call. I'm going to say that's a wash. But if I had to give a slim edge to somebody, it's New England. And the pass rush, let's go to the defensive line. You have Xavier Williams, Derek Nottie, the rookie, Justin Hamilton on KC side in terms of interior. And in terms of the Pats interior of Lawrence Guy and Danny Shelton, guys that are just mediocre. I'm giving Kansas City just the slimmest of edges. Pass rushers, New England, you have Trey Flowers, Adrian Claiborne. Flowers is okay. Change defensive line, you have Chris Jones, who's pretty good, and Alan Bailey. And I'm going to say, the defensive line as a whole gets the edge to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs get the edge at both defensive tackle and defensive end. Linebackers, you have Anthony Hitchens, Justin Houston, D. Ford for KC. And for New England, Kyle Van Noy, Dante Hightower. So I'm giving the edge to Kansas City there. Cornerbacks and safeties, we just did secondaries as a whole for the NFC game. Why not do it here? KC, you have Eric Berry, Kendall Fuller, Orlando Scandrick, the ex-Cowboy, Eric Murray. And on the New England side of things, you have Devin McCourty, Jason McCourty, Patrick Chung, Stephon Gilmore, who's had a good year, so New England gets the edge there. In terms of special teams, let's go with the kicking game like we did last game that we discussed. Stephen Gostkowski against Harrison Butker. I trust Gostkowski to make a kick with the game on the line more than Butker. Butker's missed a few key kicks this season. Gostkowski has too, and he's lost a bit of his step, but he's been there and done that in big games before, so give me the edge to Gostkowski. So I just did roster breakdown team by team and who has the edge on each position of the roster in terms of previewing these games. I think the Saints win 27-23, and I think the Chiefs win 34-27. And my best bet of the day is going to be a parlay with the Saints -3 and the Chiefs -3, plus 240 with the payout of $17.05 courtesy of DraftKings. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping these two football games as well as an early preview of the Super Bowl. I won't pick the game, obviously. I'm not going to pick the Super Bowl until next Friday's podcast, which would be February 1st. College basketball, NBA, NHL. Look ahead to tomorrow's games and those slates. Obviously, the Australian Open. And then I'll do my best bet for tomorrow, and we'll discuss a little baseball, too. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.